Imagine being one of the most talented actors in Hollywood, a man whose charm and skill could light up any screen. But behind the fame, his life was falling apart. A spiral of drugs, arrests, and even prison time. Everyone thought his career was over, until he shocked the world and rose again. That man is Robert Downey Jr. From prison cells to Marvel's biggest star, Robert Downey Jr.'s story is not just about fame and fortune. It's about destruction, redemption, and resilience. Today we'll dive deep into the untold truth of his journey, from his troubled childhood to his shocking arrests to the moment he put on the Iron Man suit and changed cinema forever. But that's not all. We'll also look at the battles he faced in court, what life was like inside prison, how he rebuilt everything, and what his life looks like now. His wife, his children, his lifestyle, and even his incredible net worth. Robert John Downey Jr. was born on April 4th, 1965, in Manhattan, New York City. His father, Robert Downey Sr., was an experimental filmmaker, famous in underground cinema. His mother, Elsie Ann, was an actress who appeared in many of his father's projects. But the Downey household was far from ordinary. Robert Sr. was also struggling with his own demons, particularly a heavy drug addiction. And sadly, that world of addiction didn't stay hidden from young Robert. At just 6 years old, he later admitted that his father gave him marijuana to try. In many ways, drugs became normalized in his childhood. Despite the chaos at home, Robert found an escape in acting. He began appearing in his father's films, learning the craft from an early age. By the time he was a teenager, he knew he wanted to be a performer. In the 1980s, Robert started carving out his own path. He joined the cast of Saturday Night Live, then appeared in cult classics like Weird Science. Hollywood began to take notice, and in 1992, he delivered a stunning performance as Charlie Chaplin in the film Chaplin. That role earned him an Academy Award nomination, proving that Robert wasn't just another actor. He was a once-in-a-generation talent. But behind the talent, the same darkness from his childhood was beginning to catch up with him. By the mid-1880s, Robert Downey Jr. was becoming one of Hollywood's brightest young stars. Casting directors loved his charisma, his energy, and his ability to completely transform into a role. But one role in particular stood out. In 1987, he starred in Less Than Zero, playing a wealthy young man whose life unravels because of cocaine addiction. The performance was haunting because it wasn't just acting. The role mirrored Robert's own personal struggles with drugs, blurring the line between fiction and reality. Still, his talent couldn't be ignored. In 1992, Robert took on the role of a lifetime, playing silent film legend Charlie Chaplin in Chaplin. The performance was so convincing, so masterful, that he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. Hollywood critics began to say he could be the greatest actor of his generation. But while his career was soaring, his personal life was falling apart. The fame, the pressure, and his childhood exposure to drugs all came crashing down. And soon, his addiction would spiral out of control. By the mid-1990s, Robert Downey Jr.'s career was exploding. But behind the cameras, his life was spiraling out of control. Years of drug use had turned into full-blown addiction, and soon Hollywood's rising star would become Hollywood's troubled headline. In 1996, everything came crashing down. Police pulled him over and found heroin, cocaine, and an unloaded handgun in his car. Robert was arrested and placed on probation. The world was shocked. But the real problem wasn't the law, it was his addiction. Again and again, he failed court-ordered drug tests. The very next year, in 1997, Robert made headlines again. High and disoriented, he broke into his neighbor's home and passed out in a child's bed. That bizarre incident landed him in Los Angeles County Jail and court-mandated rehab. His image as a movie star was crumbling. But it didn't stop there. In 1999, after repeatedly missing his required drug tests, a judge had finally had enough. Robert was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was sent to the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility, a place that combined incarceration with rehab. For a man once tipped to be one of the greatest actors alive, this was rock bottom. After serving almost a year, Robert was released early on parole, but freedom didn't last long. In 2000, he was arrested once again in Palm Springs after police found him wandering while under the influence, carrying drugs. Just a year later, in 2001, he was arrested yet again in Culver City, this time barefoot, high, and completely lost. By this point, Hollywood had given up on him. Producers labeled him uninsurable. No studio wanted to take the risk. He lost job after job, including